Hello and welcome to the Retail Week, our look back at one of the big retail stories of the last 7 days. This week there's just one thing to talk about, is that gogglebox time of year for retail when everybody is devouring the Christmas adverts. I'm George MacDonald, Executive Editor of Retail Week, and I'm joined by Gemma Goldfingal, our Features Editor, and Becky Waller-Davis, Senior Reporter. Today we've had the John Lewis advert, typically one of the most anticipated retailer advert of the year. Let's start with that. Gemma, what did you think of it?
Right, so John Lewis with Elton John. So obviously it's theatrical. I think it's beautifully done. I think it's
very cinematic.
Yeah, very poignant, very cinematic. I think there was a moment when I was watching it this morning that I thought, how on earth does this relate to Christmas? But I think they clawed that back at the end and made it resonate. I thought it was very nicely done. My only, I'd say, concern slightly was that it might have lacked some of the universal appeal
of some of the ones
of some of previous years. So the penguin or bouncing dogs, you can imagine the full family loving it and kids going, oh, it's the bouncing dog advert on. I think Elton definitely resonates with people of a certain age, myself being one of them. But
Becky,
No, I you know what? I actually really liked it, and for me, the John Lewis adverts have always been, they're always very well done. I think this is one of my favourite. Actually, I really like the emotion they capture, and I think, like you say, there is a moment when you're watching it thinking, this is great, this looks amazing, but what's it got to do with Christmas?
Yeah.
But then at the end, when you see his mum kind of watching him receive that present, and it all brings it back and kind of ties it into the, that perfect gift for that individual.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
I really liked it as well. Actually, I think it works well for John Lewis, particularly, because it is really experiential, which is also their business story at the moment. And they took that experience in some new directions. The fact that theme tunes of things like Coronation Street were played on the piano.
That's really clever.
They've created a TV experience, and then you think of them in that way. You think, oh, maybe I'll have a great experience in the store.
And in store as well, you can go and have a great experience, because they've got, I think, in about 14 stores or something, they've got those pianos, the
giant
ones in
pianos.
the giant floor pianos that you play, in the movie Big.
Yeah.
Or you can even tour the set of the advert and go into certain rooms, like look at the clothes he's wearing, listen to the music.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a fantastic experience.
Yeah, it's really great thinking about, because it's more than just a TV ad these days, isn't it? If people
it is for them. Although we'll see if it is for everyone a bit later. Yeah. But keeping on that experiential theme, Sainsbury's, I think, has taken a similar approach. What's your verdict on that one?
I really loved Sainsbury's ads. I watched it for the first time this morning. I must have missed it earlier this week. And actually, as much as John Lewis always captures the headlines, I think for a number of years now, Sainsbury's have been just behind them. They've done some really big blockbusters, some really emotive ads, like the World War one they did a few years back. That they did the Mog the Cat.
Oh yeah, Mog,
one.
That was really good.
They go all out, and it was big. It was definitely one that's memorable. I thought it was great. I definitely, it was probably more emotive to me than the Sainsbury's one, a big spectacles.
More of that universal appeal, hasn't it? Because everyone, obviously not every nativity play looks quite as swish as that.
They've set the standard high for nativity.
They really have.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, when it came out, people wondered whether that earlier John Lewis, and Partners rebrand one, I think it was, where they had the school play, whether maybe that had undermined Sainsbury's a bit, but it sounds as if that's
I don't think so.
No, it was big, it was great. I thought it was really interesting, though, that there is not a product, not a Brussels sprout anywhere in that single. I think there might have been a gravy boat, a giant gravy boat, but there was nothing about, this is the product that we sell, this is how to create the perfect Christmas dinner.
Yeah.
It was just spectacle.
Yeah, obviously associating them very much with Christmas.
Yes.
Yes, right. But, good point. We've talked about these experiential ads. Let's talk about some of the others, which I think are more about trying to sell you something. So in previous years, M&S might have done a big sort of cinematic spectacular. They've changed tack a bit this year. and we'll talk about the clothing one rather than the food one. Becky, what was your take on the M&S ad?
Personally, I liked moments of it. I thought the end in particular, which we'll come on to, was really good, really clever. Overall, as a concept, I'm not quite sure it worked because it switches between so many things, and just with M&S just over the past few years, you know, you've gone from kind of a glamorous M&S to a Paddington M&S, and now a much more kind of product-driven value M&S with prices coming up on the screen. Mm-hmm. And it just seems schizophrenic, and I think that's just emblematic of them as a whole. What I did really like about M&S is at the end of the ad, when the fairy godmother, the pantomime dame, asks Holly where she got her coat from. She says M&S. She goes, "Oh, really?"
Yeah.
I think that was really clever because that's so often what you get when you tell somebody your jumper or whatever is from M&S.
And it's getting people to reappraise M&S, which
reconsider us.
Exactly. They desperately want the customers to.
So I thought that was a really clever moment, but overall it didn't really work for me.
Yeah, I agree at the end. I thought that was really good. You know, it's sort of reminding people of what M&S is all about, and that sense of come along and rediscover us. I think it makes sense for them to have a more of a sort of sales-driven ad, given where the business is.
Yeah.
And we can get a bit overexcited sometimes about the big cinematic ones, but you know, I think we'll hope it does what it says on the can. But again, having Holly Willoughby in it was good because her collections have really resonated with customers.
She is just gold dust, isn't she, when it comes to fashion? So whatever she wears on this morning sells out immediately. So you can absolutely imagine that purple coat at the very end scene we're talking about being the blockbuster sellout thing for M&S. I agree. I think maybe smart of it to push product. That's what it needs ultimately, is sales. And they've had some beautiful blockbuster ads in the past. I'm not sure it had a massive impact on their bottom line.
No.
We'll see come January, won't we, whether this has.
Exactly. And then another retailer who really needs to sell things, Debenhams. What was your view on this one?
Do you want to take that on, Becky?
I'm really not a fan. Really not a fan. I thought it was slightly bizarre, the concept that you wouldn't... I know it's kind of affirmation that you got them the right present, but you know them, that's why you got them the right present. I don't think you need, you know, to know your friend likes red nail varnish to know. It was just a really strange, and just for me, maybe this is a personal thing, but seeing a smug face contort in close-up very slowly, not my bag.
Yeah.
At all.
I think it was a bit uninspired. I can see why they went down that route. They've been trying to kind of rebrand themselves as a gifting destination, to be known as a gifting destination for a number of years now. And I get the feeling, and I get the feeling personally, you know, when you're really excited for someone to open that gift.
For sure.
And I've done a great job, you know that. I just think it was kind of a very uninspiring way to do it.
Yes.
So do you remember the John Lewis ad from a few years ago when the little boy was desperate?
Oh, I loved that.
To give his
My
gift.
favourite advert ever,
And that was a really good way of you know, of showing about the excitement of gift giving without being smug. And
it took me a little while to understand it, actually. Maybe I'm just thick. And then another one, Boots. You know, that has made a bit of an impact. You guys have been talking quite a lot about it in the office.
I think it's less talking and more singing. So from being kind of fairly about it, like when it came out last week, I think it was, you know, it shares the story of a mother and daughter, you know, quite kind of a strong mother and female empowerment, kind of good messages from these days. You know, again showing product, the big statement, red lipstick throughout. It was a bit meh, but the song they've kind of got to put their own lyrics relating to a daughter's view on her mother, to Robbie Williams as She's the One. It's so ridiculously catchy that we've been singing.
It's stuck in my head, but I'm not sure. Yeah, but I'm not sure I particularly like it being there.
No, but catchy.
Very catchy.
And to me, for that reason, I think it's probably served its purpose as an ad, because it's there in your mind, whether you particularly want it there or not. Now let's talk about a completely different advert, one that isn't even on the telly, but has made a huge splash, Iceland. Gemma, what's your take on that?
I love it. I think it's so poignant. It's so real. It absolutely fits in with their purpose. Their you know what is driving them. They are banning palm oil from their own brand products. They talked about that earlier this year. I don't think I fully understood the impact of palm oil until I watched that video. So I think it fits in absolutely with Iceland's own message and its values and what it's trying to do and trying to, you know, the message it's trying to convey. It's, you know, it actually has, I'm going to give you a personal example. Yeah. I think it's something that has, you know, whether Christmas ads actually change shopping behaviour. If you think, that's great, John Lewis, but are you going to go and buy something from John Lewis? Yeah. I changed my shopping behaviour based on that advert at the weekend.
Well, maybe you're not the only one, because Kantar earlier in the week were talking about how Iceland's environmental initiatives meant it was drawing more ABC1 shoppers through its door. Yeah. You were talking about its message. I know it is its message, but I think it's a Greenpeace.
It's a Greenpeace
video.
Yes, it is.
What do you think about that? Because you know, that's the reason why it's been banned. It's seen as being political.
I find it really bizarre that it's seen as being political, but I guess it's, you know, where you draw the line once you start doing cause-based advertising. But I don't see being anti-deforestation as being a particularly political stance. I find that a bit bizarre. I think it's a really, really clever move from Iceland, because you think back to a few years ago when Kerry Katona was doing, you know, advertising the prawn ring or whatever, or, you know, some kind of deep fried canapé, and now they're doing this and they don't even care it's not on TV. It's so clever in terms of repositioning it.
I think that's really important. It's not on TV, but doesn't make a blind bit of difference.
No.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same. You could argue that the advertising rules are just outdated now because it has gone down an absolute storm online. And in fact, that is a bit of a theme too of this Christmas advertising season. I think that more than half of advertising in the final quarter of the year, the budgets are going online rather than on TV.
Yeah.
So I wonder in the coming years, you know, whether everybody will be turning on to YouTube at a certain time rather than during Coronation Street.
Yeah, I imagine so.
So, okay, quick canter through some of the big ads there. Let's just finish off, go around the table. Which of all the adverts you've seen so far do you think will make the biggest impact?
That's a really hard one. In terms of shopper behaviour, potentially Iceland. But I still think, for my money, I still think that advertising should be about a feeling and a message and kind of inspiring something, which is why I'd go for something like John Lewis or Sainsbury's over the more product functional based M&S, say.
Yeah. I personally love the Sainsbury's ad, but the fact that it has changed how I behaved at the weekend. I looked at the labels of my food to see whether there was palm oil in there, and I actually went into Iceland, so it's already made an impact in my life. So Iceland.
I am going for John Lewis. I really liked it. I thought that experiential nature of it was really in tune with what they're doing. Let's draw things to a close. As you said, Becky, we'll see in January what the true impact has been. Let us know your thoughts.